I was at a comedy club the other night, waiting for our name to get called. Watching 15 or 20 or so people have an experience where their dreams die on stage, and then you're getting to the end of the bucket. Your name as comedian gets called. You're gonna close the show, and it's always an out of body experience for me because I sit there with an anxiety. I prep for hours. I got my joke ready. I'm ready to go. And it used to be a little while ago, before paid comedians did like paid shows where they like tore apart new comedians as entertainment. Open mics used to be like either the club owner would find a new act and comedy would get passed over and they'd become a paid comedian and they would do shows, whatever, and they would start their career, or an established comedian would still joke and have more material for their own gags, right? So one of those two things happened. An established comedian would take a joke and have more material for their road show, or a club owner would find a new act and a new comedian would be born, sensation, whatever. Uh, these days, it's like the open mics are part of like established shows. But don't get me wrong, there's still vanity projects. Like you're still watching comedy club owners, you know, work out their own material because they have a whole venue and also hit on the audience members. So it's an interesting thing. So you're sitting there, you're waiting for your name to be called out of a bucket. Your name gets called. You know you're the last one. You're going to close the show. They say your name wrong. First of all, if everybody's ever tuned in or watched this thing, which I guess, I mean, you could say it's a vanity project if I didn't have an audience and I was just talking into the void. You'd be like, Johnny Spoiler, you have your own vanity project every week, whatever. But then they go, John Spoiler? Right? And they can barely go, John Spoiler? It's like a troll saying it from the some corner of the shadowy stage because, like, the host who's running the show is hitting on the audience members, so he's flirting with this drunk guy, and then they knock over the bucket. All the names get mixed up. And again, here's where kind of like an out of body experience comes in. And if I don't know, when was the last time you had an out of body experience? I'll talk about mine in a minute, but it always feels out of body for me performing on a stage, or as far as like acting goes in like commercials or TV projects or like indie film or any of the experiences that I've had is the same as like the stage. So I will be riddled with anxiety the whole day of a performance, and like an hour before I'm ready to go. Things are prepared. Either the whatever we're shooting that day, it's memorized. I'm ready to go. I have the 4 different ways I'm going to try it. Or if it's a joke, prepared it for like 2 hours. I'm ready to go. I got my material. It's all lined up. But then the variables that you can't control, you're trying to stay hyped up. So I'm literally like pacing the floor, jumping in the background, trying to keep going, trying to keep the energy up, because when you hit the stage, you got to entertain, you got to be ready to go, and you got to fire off your joke and hope that it lands correctly and everybody likes what you're saying, the story you're telling, whatever the narrative is. And, I had a funny bit about OnlyFans. I will tell it on this show, but not today, but I will tell it. Anyway, it's pretty good. It's about flipping an OnlyFans model. But I just want to talk about the out of body experience part of it. So it's like I'm almost can watch myself move to the stage and do the act as I'm an audience member. It really does feel like I've moved out of my own body and I'm inhabiting like a different space. And when I play characters in movies, it's like that. Like I have a great imagination. I've learned a little bit of the method stuff. I've gone to the acting school. I've done some things. Done a touring actor on stage or whatever, and done directed plays. And I don't want to do my whole resume here. That's not the point of the story. The point of the story is the ability to kind of like watch yourself as if you're floating above what you're doing as you're doing it. So anyway, even though they flubbed my name, I was like, let's go, yo. But they thought I said no. And then they go back, they're stumbling, all the names are mixed up in the bucket, and they call some dude named Evan. So Johnny Spoiler doesn't go up that night. And I've just sat and observed this train wreck for like 2 hours or whatever. I'm like, okay, interesting experience to have. Now, talking about out of body experiences, whatever, I don't know what you've had in your general life, but you know, if I'm like visualizing what I think my spirit energy looks like, I've always said it's like a little ball of creative blue energy, right? Or a wall, a massive blue energy. I was laying on the floor thinking about the lower planes, like, when people do like DMT or whatever they do, and they talk about the higher and lower planes of existence and all these little things you can uh, encounter. But I was like, saw my uninhabited spirit floating, and this time it was red. It was red fire, which I've never been red fire before, so I got to look into that. Definitely talk to somebody about that. Red fire. Anyway, we're really meandering. We're like 4 minutes in, and we're all over the place. Anyway, I'm Johnny Spoiler. As you know, I like to spoil the movies that I love, and this is Binge Watchers Podcast. Anyway, once the girl tells you what show you're on, which I've just told you, so I guess I kind of spoiled the title of the show. Anyway, the girl's going to tell you what to do. When we come back, we'll be in home video headlines. I do have a drink. It's red. I'm ready to go.
Crack open a cold box of wine or pour something cold on ice because it's the Binge Watchers Podcast.
There's this movie coming out called 12 to Midnight, and it's got that Charles Bronson lookalike, Robert Bronzy, but it also has Sadie Katz. I know her. We're acquaintances. We almost produced a vampire movie together. Also, in memorial, historically, like when this show was in a long time ago, like we did like an interview with her and the Leprechaun director because they were writing like a thriller where like the husband's trying to kill the wife, and that just seems like every plot, right? In fact, we're going to talk about a movie that has a similar plot. Anyway, 12 to Midnight. So basically, it's like Robert Bronzy. He's a dead. He looks exactly like Charles Bronson, and Charles Bronson. I like him from obviously everybody knows Death Wish, but there's also a samurai western called Red Sun that he's in that I like a lot. But the lookalike, this Robert Bronzy guy, is in a movie called Death Kiss, which obviously is trying to cash in on the legends, that Charles Bronson did with all his Death Wish movies. 12 to Midnight. Why watch it? Well, it's a werewolf movie. So it's like if they had like Death Wish plus werewolves, I guess would be it. They should have just called it like Death Wolf or something. I don't know. Or Wolf Wish. Who knows what they should have called it anyway. But 12 to Midnight. Yeah, so basically if you put drop a werewolf in any movie, right? Like Home for the Holidays with a werewolf. Let's see, Home Alone with a werewolf. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles and werewolves. You see where I'm going with this? You add a werewolf, you increase the popularity of your movie by 3,000%. 3,000%. Okay. RDJ is Doctor Doom. Who cares? Marvel's weird now. Yeah. I don't even know what angle they're going to go with. There is like a Tony Stark in the comics that ends up some version of Doctor Doom. But the fact that Robert Downey Jr. is playing Doctor Doom in the live-action movies, a lot of people will have contention with it. I don't care. Marvel's weird now, whatever. It's going to be an Avengers movie called Doomsday. Okay, whatever. I mean, Doctor Doom's cool. We'll see how it goes. I mean, if that's their plan to revitalize the brand, like, let's get the actor who started with Iron Man and let's get the best directors from Endgame and let's see what they can do. Well, okay. Well, good luck. Hellboy the Crooked Man looks like a horror movie, but Hellboy, he looks like shit and he has no personality. Oh, and then like I was hopping around Instagram and then I saw like comedians and some other people talking about how like the homeless camps and the homeless parts of the city and all the homeless people have disappeared from LA like almost overnight. And I'm like, that just makes me think of a movie called Soylent Green. Do you know Soylent Green? Look that up. See what that movie's about. I'm not even going to tell you the full story. I won't spoil that one for you. Just go and look it up. Soylent Green might have a reason why everybody disappeared overnight. That's California for you. Snake eating in its own tail, man. Anyway, I won't go into that. This is not a political show. This is not a religious show. It's just a freaking movie show. All right. Let's see. Tonight's movie, Body Double. A young actor's obsession with spying on a beautiful woman who lives nearby leads to a baffling series of events with drastic consequences. I would say the word baffling seems appropriate because like the plot, it kind of like it's kind of hard to follow. I mean, with the exception of like the stalking scenes and the voyeur scenes and the exploitation stuff, there's some elements that kind of fall apart. But whatever. I mean, it's got Craig Wasson. I've never known how to say this guy's name, so probably butchering it. Apologies up front for butchering the name. You might know him. He played the therapist in Nightmare on Elm Street 3. That's probably his claim to fame. I don't know. He's kind of like, he looks a little bit like a better looking version of Bill Maher, the comedian. Melanie Griffith, she plays Holly the Body, or Holly Body, in this movie. The object of obsession. She's basically like I don't know, one of those sensational actresses in the X-rated movies, at least in the world of mini universe of this movie. And she is, spoiler alert, she is the body double as mentioned in the title. But what's funny about it, finally sitting down to watch Body Double is I rewatched Working Girl, right? Where she plays Tess McGill. And that's a great movie. That's a romantic comedy with Harrison Ford. And Sigourney Weaver, of all people, is like the antagonist, right? They're vying for Harrison Ford's affections. And also the working girl, Tess, she's trying to blow up in the Wall Street type business world. And you can't get ahead, not in the 80s, right? Anyway, yeah, it's a good movie. Also, I didn't know Melanie Griffith has like an August birthday. I'm recording this in August, so it kind of all lines up that it's time to talk about Body Double. Let's see. Savage stats on this movie, or trivia time, as they say. Oh, Barbara Crampton shows up in here. She's a horror movie icon. And I'm gonna say I recognized her from the body silhouette. Okay, I mean she's pretty iconic. You'll know her when she pops up if you know her work. Anyway, Brian De Palma originally planned this to be the first Hollywood film to boast unsimulated sex, but the studio thought differently. That didn't quite happen. Dennis Franz bases his portrayal of Ruben, the director, because there's a movie within a movie in this, on Brian De Palma himself. I find that helpful, and it's also interesting. Like, I would watch a whole movie of Dennis Franz playing a director in a movie about making movies. I thought that was a pretty interesting thing, and I would play Dennis Franz playing a director in a movie about directing movies. Let's see. Brian De Palma got the idea to direct Body Double after working with a body double for Angie Dickinson's shower scene in Dressed to Kill. That's actually that might be my favorite De Palma movie, Dressed to Kill. And if you want to dig up a classic episode of this show, we covered that one. We spent time dressing to kill and getting dressed to kill. Okay. The futuristic octagon top of the hills modern house or ultra modern house in the movie is actually called the Chemosphere. It was made by this architect John Lautner in 1960, and it sits in the San Fernando Valley off of Mulholland Drive, and it was described in the Encyclopedia Britannica as the most modern home built in the world. I don't know if it still has that legendary title or not, but the house is pretty interesting in the movie. And the rotating bed just adds more lore to the whole story. Maybe some of the sleaziness too. I don't know, but you can't have steam and sex without the sleazy. Just part of that world, right? Everybody's sweating. It gets salty, sweaty. Bret Easton Ellis's novel American Psycho, which we of course have seen adapted into the movie American Psycho around 2000, references this film specifically many times. It's actually one of Patrick Bateman's favorite movies, and he's rented this movie over 37 times. Makes me wonder if this is the movie he's trying to return during that whole story. Every time he's like, I gotta return these videos to the video store or whatever. In American Psycho. We'll be right back after these messages with our favorite bits from Body Double. Open up a gateway to specialty coffee with Gevi coffee machines. Their coffee makers range from pour-over coffee makers to espresso machines, each designed to cater to your preferences and serve nuanced premium coffees that taste divine. Gevi's EasyPod compact single-serve coffee maker has a small footprint with big coffee satisfaction. It's slim and sleek and optimized for tight spaces. It's got fast brewing, so you can enjoy your coffee in under 3 minutes. It has intensity options. You can pick from over ice, classic, or strong brews. It's got a robust brew. Pre-fusion delivers bold flavor with those brews. Custom cup size, you can brew from 4 to 12 ounces. You can use K-Cups and grounds, so you can brew with either option. We have an affiliate link. Grab that. The single-serve coffee thing is a good idea. I had this, 5-cup coffee maker before I switched to this single-serve, and here's the single server or whatever. Here's what it is. I drink, 2 or 3, and 2 get wasted. And there's also a lot of grounds. It's kind of messy, and I'm like, that's a lot of work for just a couple cups, but going with the Gevi is probably a better idea. It's an affiliate, which means we're promoting it, which means we have a link. You can go and get the deal, snag it, get yourself a Gevi product, one of their espresso machines, what have you, if you're a coffee fanatic. Now back to the podcast show already in progress with favorite bits from Body Double. Actually, no, wait. I lied. I got it on the message. This is about the final season of Evil, which is exclusively on Paramount Plus. You can try it for free with our link. It's about a forensic psychologist and tech guru joining forces with a Catholic priest to investigate a series of unexplained supernatural mysteries. While pulling on the threads of each case, their own beliefs about reality start to unravel, challenging their group dynamic and making them question their truth. That's the final season of Evil, exclusively on Paramount Plus. You can try it free. We have a link in the description. It'll also be up on the website, on the blog. You can grab it, try it out. All right, now I'm really going back to the show. After these messages, we've arrived at favorite bits from Body Double. Let's see. My first question was, who is the lady dancing for? Obviously, the dancing bits are exciting. The idea of a claustrophobic vampire is cool. There's like a gag within a gag in the movie within a movie. The main actor has a really good reason, and they do take the time in the movie, so you got to give him props for that, for taking the time to explain why he's so claustrophobic. And then they want him to play a vampire, and he freaks out in the coffin. So the whole idea that a vampire could be afraid of his own coffin could be its own plot. My imagination was kind of running wild with that element. It's not intended to be a claustrophobic vampire, but you could easily have a movie about a claustrophobic vampire, and it might be more interesting than just a regular vampire movie. Oh, I have to say, like, the way they dressed the actor Craig up as the vampire is really cool, because he actually looked like one of the mutant antagonists who's not a vampire in Vampire Hunter D, but he has like this Billy Idol flair, like this bleached hair, one of those like ripped denim leather things happening, like 80s future neon style. Anyway, that kind of chic was pretty cool. Techno chic, I don't know what you call it, punk chic, ultra punk, I don't know. The claustrophobic tunnel scene. So there's a scene where this is like, I mean, they always say, like, you know, De Palma's like inspired by Hitchcock, or, you know, whatever, borrows from Hitchcock or whatever. Or it's been said. Look it up. It's in the trades. I'm not, you know, I think he talks about him in interviews about his influences. But there's this scene where the real stalker, the real murderer, is chasing the intended victim, and the main character is trying to help her, but he's been also stalking her. It's weird. It's like he's following her, then he's following the killer, follow her, and then the killer is following him, follow her, and it goes back and forth. But there's a point where they're on the beach, and the supposed killer steals her purse. And you know who the killer is at the beginning of the movie. It's not really that hard to figure out. Also, he does like a bad makeup job because he's also an actor, so he, you know, mutilates his face a little bit with makeup effects and then has a wig on, but you know who he is. Anyway, so the main character is chasing the stalker murderer down a beach, and he's stolen the lady's purse. And so he's going to chase him into a tunnel, but then his claustrophobic episode kicks in, and the tunnel seems to stretch on into infinity, and he starts to choke and gag and whatever. And the movie does a really great job of setting you up for him to have to overcome this fear in order to stop the guy. And they tie back in a grave, you know what I mean? Like, in the third act, like, the main character is trapped in being buried alive, essentially, by the killer, and, like, if he doesn't get out of there, he's going to die. And also the body double, Melanie Griffith, the Holly Body character, she's going to die, who he kind of has a relationship with, whatever. And there's a major turn by the main actor, too. He at one point is playing, pretending to portray a porn producer, get closer to Holly Body and have a relationship with her, and try to solve the murder of the lady that the killer's trying to pin on him. Again, this is like, I mean, am I talking about a Lifetime channel movie? No, I mean, Lifetime didn't exist when they made this movie. But you feel like I'm just talking about these relationships and the seediness and all this stuff. And is that it for my favorite bits? Wow. Oh, wait. One last thing. If you don't watch the credits roll, you're not going to see how it ends. Like, the movie abruptly ends on the final scene when he digs himself out of the grave, and Holly Body's complaining because she's still not convinced that the main character might still be a killer or might still be the person who did everything wrong. And then it just, boom, cuts the credits, and then it's showing you another scene from the vampire movie that he's in. Like, he got his roll back, and then I think it's Barbara Crampton is the victim in the vampire movie, and there's a shower scene. But then when you watch the credits, you'll see that he still has a relationship with Holly Body, but you wouldn't have known that if you turn the movie off. A lot of people just kill the movie when the credits roll. They're done or they walk away. I mean, even if it's streaming, I didn't find it anywhere for free. It was like a paid rental, whatever, $3 on Amazon or something, Prime, but it's everywhere. It's on all the streamers. I had intended to watch Body Double for quite a while, and then it's like finally getting around to it, which might affect my rating, which we'll jump into now. So on this show, we do binge now, binge later, binge never. Watch it now. Don't waste any time. Get to it. Move it to the top of your list. Binge later is get around to it. It's worth watching, but you don't got to rush out and watch it today. Binge never is you can't get the 2 hours back, the 90 minutes, whatever it is. You've wasted your time. You've wasted your life. You shouldn't have watched this thing. This falls pretty much definitively into a binge later. Like, I had always wanted to watch Body Double. Knew Melanie Griffith was in it. I liked the Craig guy, who I think looks like Bill Maher. I always wanted to see him in more stuff, just never got around to it. Finally did it for the show so we could talk about it. And yeah, there's some disappointing elements because the story is not like cohesive. Like, yeah, is it voyeuristic? Yes. Is that one of the elements? Yes. Did they capture the claustrophobia as a physical element? Yes. So the audience would experience it with the hero. Good job on that. Where it falls apart is really, it's so flimsy, man. Like, you know who the killer is right away. You don't think that his, like, conspiracy or setup would work. And there's a lot of exaggeration on the relationship with first the woman who's the wife who's going to get killed or whatever, the intended victim on the beach, and the actor's obsession with her as opposed to his obsession with the Holly Body lady. And it sounds confusing as I'm talking about it, so maybe I'm not describing it correctly, but if you watch it, nothing's confusing. It's just not that worthwhile. And maybe because, like, I'm desensitized, maybe at the time it was risque and scanted and steamy, but now we got OnlyFans now, we've got all these other movies that are pushing things further than this boundary, so maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's just like, would be timid against modern standards. I don't know. So yeah, binge later. Fan service. The clips get a lot of comments, like the long form, whatever. We're happy to get comments and reviews, and drop likes or whatever, or hit us with the podcast reviews. But it seems like the little clippies, the ones I pull from the long form, and just kind of tease everybody to go listen to the whole thing or watch the whole thing by looking at the little 30-second or 1 minute clippies. They get a lot of comments, and like a funny one that stood out to me from YouTube Shorts was, I was talking about Long Legs. I was talking about the Nick Cage serial killer movie. And someone said, if I put a wig on and painted my face white, I could be Long Legs. I thought it was hilarious. So yeah, so that's what's up with fan service. Staff picks. Is there any other thing that I can recommend that you watch if we're not talking about the movie of the week? I watched this movie called We Are Zombies. Here's the description. When the dead are back, what do we do with them? The makers of Turbo Kid and Summer of '84, it's a filmmaking group called RKSS. They offer a fresh take on the undead in the Screambox original We Are Zombies, streaming everywhere August 13th. I got an advanced screener, obviously. In a city infested with the living impaired, also known as non-cannibal zombies, three slackers are after easy money, but they must fight some small-time crooks and an evil mega corporation to save their kidnapped grandma. RKS is the Canadian filmmaking collective composed of Francois Simon Anik Whistle and Yonan Carl Whistle. I probably butchered all their names. They wrote and directed the horror comedy based on the comic book series The Zombies That Ate the World. Man, you want me to rate this movie, We Are Zombies, against the binge watcher rating? Binge now, binge later, binge never? Whew. They should stop sending me screeners because I'm going to be bluntly honest about this one. It's a binge never, man. You don't got to watch this zombie movie. There's 1,000 other zombie movies you could watch, or at least a handful. There's 3 that I can think of. I mean, we're getting ready to do, 30 years later based on 28 days later or whatever it is? Or 28 years later based on, 28 months later and based on 28 days later, the zombie thing, from Danny Boyle. And, damn it. The actor's name is skipping my thing, but he was just an Oppenheimer, but that's not his real name, but that's whatever. Anyway. So wow. I really wanted to like this one because I love Turbo Kid. They did some cool retro future stuff with that one. And it was very cheesy and gory and a B-movie quality. But this one, We Are Zombies, kind of falls flat. One story I did like is there was a they were looking for, they were trying to make a deal with a guy because they have to pay off a ransom, and this guy is infatuated. The main character and also this rich guy who was the club owner. And like zombies are timid. They just do like regular activities. They're kind of like pests, like mice or rats. They're just kind of in the way, but they're not really doing anything until the corporation, you know, amps up the virus and makes them killer zombies. But until that, they're just kind of in the way. But the main character is fascinated with this actress from like the 20s and 30s, and so is like the club owner. So it's like, oh, go get her because I think she's a zombie kicking around. Go dig her up, bring her back. I'll pay the ransom or I'll give you the money. And there's a cam model, again, OnlyFans. There's a cam model in like a zombie bordello who the main character's fascinated with because she looks like this actress. Would have been a stronger story if they just said, no, he's really in love with the pinup lady from the 20s who's a zombie model and she is a zombie, and the story can grow from there. Otherwise, I mean, like, you got the bumbling, overweight best friend who's in love with the sister, and it's like the trio of them and their interactions, and then they bring the cam model, and then they're fighting the zombies once they turn rabid or whatever. But there's really, it's literally like whatever. I mean, I saw the trailer, I got the email from Screenbox and was like, take a look at this, and I just don't want to like. A lot of like reviewers were fluff off whatever they get for screeners because they want to keep getting the screeners and they're worried that they're gonna like biting the hand that feeds them or whatever, or shitting where they eat or whatever. But that's not this show, man. I just gotta tell you whether it's worth your time or not. You know what I mean? And skip it. Screenbox is cool. There's a lot of cool horror movies on there, a lot of on-demand stuff for horror fans. Just whatever. Or maybe I've watched too many zombie movies and I just don't have a fair opinion, whatever. But again, I've already said in another video, like, hey man, you gotta watch things for yourself anyway. Whether you're a trusted authority or not here, you gotta go and investigate your own movies. Be movie watchers. You come back and let me know. You watch We Are Zombies and then tell me whether you think it's a good movie or not. How about that? Hey, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back with another great show next week. Binge Watchers Podcast, Johnny Spoiler, podcast show. And what's the outro going to be? You know what? You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.